So this thing is missing a texture. Previewing material from outputs. There's a lot of stuff in this thing, isn't there? Well, I wish it would actually let me know which thing is missing here. That would be pretty handy, wouldn't it? So the texture sampler is still missing this thing. So if we double click on it, let's click on something else. If I double click on this, it takes me nowhere. If I click on the error, it takes me here. I click on this, is it anything? No, this is just advanced grass. Okay. So SM5, but if I do go in here, this has the same issue. So are there any texture sample nodes that don't have textures? This is again a texture sample. Let's see, is there a way to highlight the errors in your blueprint? Because that certainly would be helpful right about now. It's not jumping to the error like it's supposed to. Let's see, texture samples. Any way to just view texture samples? Well, that's cool. If you mouse around, it actually moves that texture. Interesting. So texture sample here, that exists. Multiply texture sample here also exists. This texture sample, that's just a lerp. That's another one. Here we go. Texture sample right here. Okay, here it is. These two. They don't have these two? This is none. This is none as well, though. So do you know what these texture samples are supposed to be here? Because it looks like it just has errors. This is grass clumping masks. Dead grass clumping. Let's see if there's a texture here that should have something in there. I don't see anything inside of their textures that has this stuff. So maybe we should grab like some sort of, like white, or like a kind of a basic texture with nothing on it. We'll just throw some random piece of garbage thing in there. What is this one? PX waterfall. Yeah, sure, why not? Okay, so it's like all sorts of screwed up now. Doesn't seem to be going to the error too well for me. If I just like click randomly on something, it just takes me back to this window. If I close it entirely. Missing material function. Well, I don't know. Yeah. I think for just importing your stuff, you just need to drag it in there. And there's probably some assets, like you need to just like take all the assets and just bring them in. And then you can probably mess with the rest of it. They probably have like some other U assets and everything that's probably... Why don't I try some of that? Just close all this crap down. I'll just try one more thing real quick. Because all this stuff is checked in, so I can do like a force get on the whole damn thing. So I can, I should be able to just delete the grass blueprint stuff out of this. And just like chunk everything in here. And then we load this up, we'll see if it's just all sorts of screwed up. But I'll just blow away my workspace. Grab it all from source control after this. But it's good for me to go work on other stuff and see if I can do anything with it. So we've got our shader, all of our textures and random stuff. So it's supposed to look something like that, I'm guessing. So if we go to our grass meshes or whatever, if I just throw this grass in here, and let's group all this together. And let's throw it into our foreground a little bit so we can maybe see it. Well, I think we threw it too far into our foreground. So it's supposed to look something like this, I'm assuming, Schnod? It's supposed to have all your grass kind of swaying in the breeze, doing all that sort of fun thing. And yeah, all I did there was I just copied that stuff into my workspace. And it looks like Schnod is no longer watching, so. So he will never know. He will never know how to do it. We'll see if he's online, and I'll just message him. Like, is he actually online? So send him a whisper, and maybe he'll he can look at it later or something. But yeah, that's how you do a few of those things. And I'm gonna just, you know, close this down and blow this stuff away. But that's how you can get some stuff in there. Just chunk it in there, and it'll be good. And this is, and yeah, that was sick. All right. I'll look at that. I know Adam's been looking into some of the material stuff before, right? And that might be something that we should take a look a little bit more for ourselves there. German talking dude, yeah. Well, with a name like Schnod, I would assume so. Anyway, so this is the cool thing about Perforce and having other things. Oh, they have a map in here. All right, why don't we open up their map real quick and see what their map looks like. Maybe their map has some like super amazing grass bullshit going on. I mean, we took the time to like actually figure out how to use the damn thing. We might as well take a look at their test level, right? Like, it would just be kind of rude to just not. So that's in our top level. So let's boot up the grass blueprint level and see what they got rolling around for their examples. Like the grass looks okay. It probably looks a lot better when it's not like so up close and stupid like that. But if anything, it's like you can see all the cool stuff. They obviously, whoever made it knows all their stuff about using the material editor and using shaders and all the crazy fun times like that. So let's see what we're doing here. Invalid vertex, recomputation of vertex normals for mixed space. Movement's wonky. Yeah, it's probably just because of, you know, you just like throw random crap in there and, you know, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. When you throw just random assets in there and you just kind of, oh, I wonder if this works, and you drag it on there and it looks a little weird. It's like, well, yeah, it's because it's all sorts of screwed up. It'd be like dragging a fat sack onto your scene and being like, he's the main character, and fat sack's like looking all awkward. He's like, I didn't sign up for this. Just leave me alone. So we're going to load up all the things, and it's going to take 2 million years. This is what this stream is all about, remember. This is about watching progress bars, and then like something interesting comes on, and then I close it real quick. And I'm like, no, nobody should see that. It's boring and unnecessary. Yeah, leave Fat Sack alone. What did he do to you? You don't even know. And yeah, it's basically having to rebuild all these textures, what it looks like. That's what's going on. Yeah, missing cache shader maps for those, compiling grass shaders, roof tiles and garage doors, and wood pine materials. The game progress bars? Yeah, I mean, that's how you do it. Again, you can tell we're compiling shaders because that's our CPU utilization, which is just wonderful. Which I don't know if you guys have ever hooked up like a watt meter to a machine when it's using all of its cores and doing a whole lot of heavy work. It's really cool. You can see just how much power that these things are drawing all the time. So we'll see what this thing looks like. Looks like they got a house. They got like a little neighborhood. And they got all this grass and all these fields and everything. And once we finish compiling all these shaders, we can see it pop in. Oh man, we're in a mountain town. We've got our God rays coming in from our sun in the sky, which I cannot find currently. Oh man, now we got clouds, and we have God is angry at us. God is very angry at us. Alright, so if we run through our field, this is what I think he's looking for. And they're probably just saying like, look at this, you can make this awesome lush field. And then they threw a whole bunch of depth of field blur shit on top of it to cover up that, like, it really doesn't look very good up close. It looks like a bunch of sprites going back and forth. Like, you can just see just how blurry this, like, that's not the video. Like, it's just like it blurs the shit out of everything if you're more than like a couple meters away from it. So it's probably cool in concept, but like you'd have to have like a kind of a Nintendo Wii sort of shader make blurry function on this to make it look nice, and you'd have to have like some outdoorsy type game and use a whole hell of a lot of blur to make it look decent. Like, look at that, that just looks so fucking strange. It's like the ground is made of sickness. Yeah, the wave movement on short grass just like makes no sense. So yeah, decent. It's an experiment, but you know, even the gods are angry at us right now for loading this level up. Yeah, we can run along the ground. Wait, what is this? This is just somebody's test level. They asked us to see if we could import it. Let's see. They got reflections in the windows. The reflections look all sorts of jacked to hell. You can see that it's all stretched to infinity. That's a good point. Why don't we just see if we can spawn a fat sack in here? We'll put him. Oh no, he's running up! Oh, okay. He's like, what have you done? I'm in a very strange world. Leave me alone. I just wanted to play around in Brackenwood, and where have you put me? Why can't I get over this? Get over this frickin' thing. Alright. Let's see how Fat Sack survives in the wilderness. This is the Fat Sack in its native habitat in the suburbs. Digging in grass. I don't even want to know what that Fat Sack's doing to the other Fat Sack in the tall grass. It looks a little lewd. Let's see. If we wanted to actually play as a character here. How do we actually do that? Oh, that is funny as shit. So if you can't tell, like Bitey is right there in the world, jumping around. But our other camera has hijacked our movement, so Bitey is. Oh man, this is really difficult to deal with right now. Anyway, so that's that. We're gonna forget that this ever happened real quick here. So the cool thing about Perforce and all that sort of stuff is I can just delete everything in this folder. And I can be like, oh no, everything's gone. All my content, FatSack is dead. And I can just go to Perforce and I can just say force git everything. Thank you very much. And we can just get a perfectly clean workspace from our version control server. It is pretty funny though that we can just slap Bitey into one of those things and his camera planes all nicely start working. The camera, it looks like the other player controller captured the pawn after our camera, so we weren't able to actually capture and then control Bitey running around. But we've made everything inside of Unreal 4 kind of using their actual rules and a lot, so kind of any level in Unreal 4 we could, with a little bit of messing around, we can actually throw our dudes inside of it. It'll just look all sorts of screwed up. It's kind of funny, I'm like streaming everything on Twitch at the same time I'm downloading a whole shitload of files. And I think everything's working, like I don't see any dropped frames and everything. God, I guess I have decent internet. That's our internet at the moment. We're getting 6 up and 30 down or 35 down. Yeah, well, upload and download are different things for a reason. Yeah, the content folder actually has a whole bunch of junk in it. And we probably want to get rid of, because U assets are not small. So I'm actually gonna be right back while this continues to download. So give me a minute. And it is one of the interesting things I might want to think about, which is, you know, if we wanted, since we are using the Unreal Editor and we're kind of building our own editor and all this stuff inside of it, it would be totally possible to kind of just be like, oh, well, if you wanted to make any custom levels for this game or something like that, we could just release the editor. And then, people could make maps and, just they would just work. Something to think about. Because that's usually one of the big problems with user content creation is that, having tools and things like that for it can be a real pain in the ass. Alright, so it looks like I need to revert the files that I had open. Of course, the other issue if you want to have users submit content or something like that is it could be pretty garbage. Look at my map I made. It's great. And you're like, yeah, don't run left. Ever. Cool. So there's our camera test. And Bitey is back doing what Bitey does. So that's the cool thing about Perforce and using any sort of version control is you can just pull up some experiment that somebody asked you to mess with and just get rid of all that shit when you're done with it. So I'm gonna grab a little bit more water and some more caffeine. I'll be right back. About 45 seconds. So let's take a look here. We need to get back to our entity creation stuff. And we had finished up actually overriding all the variables and all that stuff. So what we want to do now is actually start hooking it up to override the things in the entity when we create that entity. So let's start getting that done. So what do we want to do? Alright, we need to first get the data manager. Alright, so we'll get the data manager and we want to get entity class by name. So we're basically casting this thing to an entity actor, and then we need to do stuff with it. So we need create entity by name with params. We need params dot. Yeah, we also need like if params is null, then we need to return. We're going to use our completely super hack notation for one line if statements because we can. Yeah, like this is just like trash. This right here is absolute garbage. You would never want to do this ever. But we're going to do it because I really don't give a shit. So let's see, this is the position. So if params override position, alright, so we're grabbing our transform here. Our rotator, we want to just do that. So we want set translation to position. Why are you angry? You should not be angry. So do we have like auto scale to height? Yeah, set Dashkin entity and all that sort of stuff here. This is interesting. We don't actually call set Dashkin entity. It should already be set. So let's take a look real quick here. This set Dashkin entity on the entity actor sets a whole bunch of stuff on it. Well, this is interesting. The entity is actually going to be something else, isn't it? It's not just an entity. Like, what are we spawning these from? Because we're not actually spawning entity actors. Like, our entity classes are going to be Dashkin entity actor or entity proxy. So if it's an actual entity actor, then it's going to be one thing. If it's... Right, so if entity does not equal null pointer, otherwise, we need to check if this is like an entity proxy actor. Is that what we need to do? Man, what a thing here. This entity proxy actor inside of its begin play calls destroying itself pretty much, and begin play is going to be called like immediately. So what we should do is have like the entity proxy actor needs to you need to do the reverse. We need to do like if actor is a Dashkin entity proxy actor. And we actually also need to have like a U property here for like a actor. And spawned actor. Then we need like a public get spawned actor. This is a pointer. Alright, so I actually want to see if this is proxy actor equals, we'll cast this to this, so if proxy actor does not equal null pointer, we're going to say entity equals null pointer, the entity equals the proxy actor get spawned actor, else entity equals cast this to thing to that, so if entity equals null pointer, return null pointer. So this thing should be already created and all that, which is probably a bit of a problem. Well, whatever. We'll just mess around with stuff real quick. And we'll probably have to rejigger how we're actually spawning all these entities. Alright, so this is not a declared variable because I forgot the namespace for the class on the function. Yeah, and I can't just say cast nothing to this thing. I have to actually pass in, you know, a thing to cast to something. You know, that whole thing. That whole thing of like writing code that makes sense. Be like, I want you to cast to an entity proxy actor. Be like, well, you want me to cast what? And be like, I don't know. Figure it out. A entity proxy actor is undefined. Well, that's because we're not including it. So let's include it. So let's see. I'm gonna boot this up and see exactly what some of our stuff is looking like. Because this should make a FATSAC proxy. This logic should grab the FATSAC proxy, which is this entity, and it's going to create from this. So we should see a FATSAC created like up here. FATSAC's just so tiny. Do we not make this thing? Yeah, the entity proxy's there. So we made this actor, spawn actor, spawning it in this location. The actor is null. Well, why was it null? This class is an entity proxy. But there's nothing in it. Is there? I think it's just class default object, default entity proxy. Effect class map. Look at that. Look at that horrendous typo there. Get entity class by name and get effect class by name, and they're totally fucking swapped. Alright. Copy paste errors are just always the best. So let's see. We obviously had some problems there. And we had copy pasted that stuff correctly, incorrectly both times. So we were at least consistently poor in our decision-making process, which in the end, actually, 2 wrongs did make a right. And that happens a lot in programming. We're like, well, this is screwed up. Well, then how does anything work? You're like, oh, because everything else is screwed up too. Oh. So let's look up the definition of spawn actor real quick. So really what we're doing here is we need to spawn an actor of a specific type. So what we need to know is if this class is actually a Dashkin entity actor or if this class is an entity proxy. Because if it's an entity proxy, we need to make the thing and then pass it in there. Otherwise, we need to yeah. So it should basically be like we should be saying the entity actor here should be a thing. So if it's like the prototype entity actor, we're actually going to say like we're going to cast to an A-Dashkin entity actor the class that we actually got in. So if this is null pointer, then we need to figure out what to do. If that's true, basically we need to call these like create entity actor from proxy. So, in order to do that, we need to pass in the world. We need to pass in the proxy. So it should be u entity proxy pointer proxy equals. We'll cast this thing to a proxy, and if proxy does not equal null, then we can get our position set up. And this should be a Dashkin entity actor right here. Alright, it's starting to fall into place. Just have to get it through my head exactly what I'm doing here with a lot of this spawning of actors and all these other things. Because it's like I'm taking asset data that's not actually an actor and I'm like making an actor from it, so let's see, this is not really showing me what I want. So like the entity class map contains two things, a bitey player proxy and a fatsec proxy. The fatsec proxy contains this entity proxy, which has well, it's a class. So what I need to do is I don't want to get the class by name. I need to get